Easter, a day where we celebrate the festival of the pagan fertility god Ishtar, and that a rabbit shitting chocolate eggs somehow relates to the death of a Jew 2,000 years ago. But the true meaning of Easter has been completely lost. No, it is not about the death of a Jew 2,000 years ago. Rather, it is more relevant than we think. Why was that guy Jesus, or Esau, or Yeshua, whatever you want to call him? It doesn't really matter. Why was he put to death in the first place? Because he upset a whole lot of Jewish people. How did he do this? Was he a blasphemer? Saying that he was the Son of God? Saying that he was the Messiah? Or, and this is the big or, no, not that kind of or that kind. Or was it because, as it says in Matthew 21:12, that Jesus entered the temple courts and drove out all the people who were buying and selling there? He overturned the tables of the money changers and the money lenders and the benches of those selling doves. Was that the reason? Basically, Jesus went into the place where people are supposed to worship the Old Testament fire and brimstone God, and found that people were selling things, basically doing immoral things in the house of God. Interesting. Very interesting. So the Jews retaliated by saying, "Oi, he turned up our tables and made an inconvenience for us. Let us go over the top. Let us now take action. Now. Let's take action against him now. Even though he's fed the homeless, clothed the poor, healed the sick." So let me get this right. They only take actions against him for blaspheming after he tips over tables and causes them a little bit of inconvenience. Yeah, this seems fair enough. Let him feed the homeless, call himself the Son of God, heal the sick, but tip over a couple of tables and everyone loses their mind.
Well, then everyone loses their minds.
So they asked for him to be put to death for this one little annoyance. Bravo, Old Testament Jews. Bravo. Now, what about this guy? Pontius Pilate. No, not Poncho Pilate. Pontius Pilate. Here's the one who condemned Jesus to death. No, wait, he didn't want to. So he passed it off to Herod. And Herod said, "I'm not touching this with a 10-foot bow," and passed it right back to Pilate. And Pilate said in Luke 23:14, "You brought me this man as one who is inciting the people to rebellion. I have examined him in your presence and found no basis for your charges against him." But the Jewish people still bayed for blood. They still wanted him to be condemned. So Pilate had no choice but to accept what the Jewish people had asked. What about Barabbas? What, Jesus or Barabbas? Jesus, this man who has healed the sick and fed the poor? Or this guy who is a murderer, a prisoner, a thief, a scoundrel? Which one do you want to be pardoned? You know the rest. Jesus was put to death. They made him carry a cross most of the way, but there was one who helped him, Simon of Cyrene. When Jesus had fallen, he was there to help him out. They put up the cross, where he yelled. He put up the cross, and Jesus yelled, "I can see my house from here!" Or, "God, why have you forsaken me?" One of the two, I'm not too sure which one. And a few hours later, he died. Not from the crown of thorns or from being nailed to the cross, but because of the spear of destiny going through his ribs and basically making him bleed out internally. Yeah, sounds like fun. Damn that Roman soldier who did that. He was then taken down and put into a tomb with a big ass rock in front of it for 3 days. And 3 days later, he had risen. Died on the Friday, rose on the Sunday. Friday, Sunday. 3 days. Friday, Sunday, 3 days. Because you see, back in biblical times, there was an extra day between Saturday and Sunday. It was called We Can't Count to 3 days. Now, you may be thinking, well, I'm picking on the Jewish people here, but in fact, everything I said is written X amount of years after it happened. I mean, you know, they were written by Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, but not all at the same time. They weren't sitting around the table going, oh, I do remember when, we should write this and then this. No, they were written separately, so of course there's going to be discrepancies. Remember the last time you were out with friends a couple of weekends ago, having a couple of drinks, and you all have different memories of the same thing that happened that night after you drank a little bit too much and your friend drank a little bit too much, and you know how it goes. So, why am I picking on the Jews? Well, because the Bible tells me to. The Bible also tells me to kill anyone who has sex out of marriage, anyone who has sex with the same sex. So let's all do what the Bible says, or we can look at the Bible objectively. Did Jesus say at the Last Supper that one of his disciples would betray him? Yes, he did. In Matthew chapter 26, verse 23 to 25, the Son of Man goes, even as it is written of him. But woe to that man through whom this Son of Man is betrayed. It would be better for that man if he had not been born. Judas, who betrayed him, answered, It is me, Rabbi. He said to him, You said it. Now we have two things here. Firstly, Jesus confirmed that it would be Judas who would betray him at the dinner, so all the disciples knew. And secondly, Judas called Jesus Rabbi, which meant Jesus was seen by Judas as still his teacher, and that to be called a rabbi you must be married. Okay, number one, it is confirmed that the disciples knew that Judas would betray Jesus, and why didn't they just say, well, get him, and basically tear Judas a new one right then and there. The Last Supper was less, oh my god, one of you guys is going to betray me, and more, okay guys, this is what is going to happen, someone is going to betray me, I'm not going to name names, Judas, it is he who will betray me. Now run along, Judas. But Jesus didn't tell the other disciples now, did he? Because, well, the less people who knew, the better, right? Because, hey, the Gospels knew everything else, yeah? Even though there's conflicting parts of it, that's a story for another day. Now let's look at this objectively. The people in the temple knew it was Jesus who tipped over the pots, and the tables, and the trinkets. Why did they need someone to point him out? Why did they get Judas to point him out? You know, oh, there he is. See that group up there? It's one of them. But I'm not going to tell you which one it is. I'm going to go up and give him a kiss. And because the disciples didn't fully know what was going on, one of the disciples cut off the ears of one of the Romans. And Jesus said, do you want to see a magic trick? Ta-da! The ear is back on. Okay, soldier, let's go. Number 2. Jesus was called a rabbi by Judas, which meant that Judas was still looked up to Jesus, and also that Jesus was married. Now with the Da Vinci Code we all know Jesus was married to Mary Magdalene, and that she wasn't a prostitute like the church espoused for X amount of years. But in fact it's recently said, no, she wasn't a prostitute, but let's just keep that quiet and make people still think she is. Now, there is a difference between the Old Testament and the New Testament. The Old Testament is all about fire and brimstone and, making sure God is number one. Whereas the New Testament is more about proving Jesus being the Son of God. And also being God. And also being the Holy Spirit. So basically Jesus was the Holy Trinity. Contradictions in term. At the Council of Nicaea, Constantine asked for Jesus to look as godly as he could and throw away all the things that made Jesus look remotely human. So, throw all the things away that said he was married and he colluded with Judas, and you get the point. Now we have Easter in a little bit more context. Let's take it up to the next level. Now, Easter is on the first Sunday after the first full moon after the spring equinox, or autumn equinox for those south of the equator. So Easter is after the equinox, well, so is Christmas. Only Christmas is after the winter equinox. Okay, so the equinox is the 21st. And Jesus was born in the manger on the night of the 25th.
Yeah.
Then what is the point of Christmas Eve?
Well, he was born in the early hours of the 25th.
So basically 3 and a bit days anyway.
I guess, yeah.
But Jesus wasn't actually born on this day. No one knows when he was actually born. The reason for this birthday, the 25th of December, was because it was a day that Constantine wanted to overtake over the pagans and make it their own. So now we have Jesus' birthday on just after this winter equinox, and his death just after the spring equinox. Is Christianity starting to sound a little bit more like astrology?
Yeah, but that's just Christianity.
Yeah? And it's Judaism too,
How?
I'm glad you asked that guy who looks absolutely nothing like me. See, from about 4300 BC to 2150 BC, we had the Age of Taurus, or the Bull.
Yeah.
What Moses did, see, when he came down from the mountain, he saw the people doing what? Worshipping a calf.
Yeah, well...
What is Taurus? The bull.
Yeah.
Funny about that. Then we went to the Age of Aries. Now what is Aries? The ram. And what do Jewish people blow to start a holiday?
Yep.
They blow the shofar, or ram's horn. Did you know that was a ram's horn that was being blown around the city of Jericho for 7 days?
I did not.
Didn't think so. Well, I'm glad you asked about Jesus. Because random fellow who looks nothing like me at all.
I didn't ask about Jesus.
Jesus was born in the Age of Pisces, and the Age of Pisces goes from 180 to 2150 AD. Pisces, yeah? What did Jesus feed 5,000 people with? Bread and...
Fish.
What is an early symbol of Christianity? The Jesus? Fish. When Jesus' assumed birthday, when is it? 180, the same year as the start of... No, yeah, I agree. Now want to know something even more spectacular?
Sure.
The next age is Aquarius, and what is the symbol of Aquarius? A man pouring water out of a jug. I'm still getting used to this, you don't have to mock me. Well, anyway, Jesus and shut up. Well, Jesus said to his disciples in Luke 20:10, as he enters the city, a man carrying a jar of water will meet you. Follow him into the house that he enters. Now, many people think that this is just a story of the Last Supper. Maybe the Last Supper is also a symbolism of when Jesus will come back at the end of the Age of Pisces and the start of Aquarius.
Yeah, this is getting a bit far-fetched.
Yeah, okay,
Dumb out.
no worries. Well, that ends today's sermon. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned something new.
Nope, wasting my time.
It had facts and...
Waste of my time.
Anywho, we'll see you next week. Until then, take care of yourself and each other.
Fucking springy, you dickhead.